got the right material, was able to manufacture at a much cheaper cost because had put it together himself. And then here comes the larger part of the innovative zeal, which is now I can actually patent the machine. I can charge a premium. In which case? So I started out thinking rural women need this, they need access. I've got an invention. But if I try and milk the invention now, I go back to that. I may make it a little more affordable, but I still don't have access in the way that I want to. So what does he do? From a business perspective, what innovation does he unleash? Gives it to women self-help groups and says, you operate the machine. It's yours. We'll take a bank loan, help you make the machine. You run, operate, and we'll share in the profits. And we still sell at 2 rupees. 2 rupees per pad. Why 2 rupees per pad? Because, what's it, 4-5 days in a month? I get to 10 rupees. 10 rupees is doable, even for poor households, right? Much more, because otherwise it's selling at what? To 20 rupees at least, minimum. 10 times more. 20 rupees means what, about $100 you have to spend? So from 100 here, 10. I've reduced the cost by 1/10. That's how you change society. That's a holistic approach. If you went in with a very symptomatic, now that story tells you everything you have to know about all these qualities. The reason I narrate Padman is you have creativity, you have a holistic approach, you have an altruistic approach. He refuses to take money, he refuses to patent. You have a maverick, goes against source. What is a maverick? Again, back to maverick. Comes from a lawyer, Samuel Maverick. Samuel Maverick refused to brand his cattle. You know how they branded cattle in the old days? How do they brand cattle?
They used to heat the iron and stamp the cattle.
Very good. Very good. They brand the cattle by a very, it's a cruel process. And the reason they branded cattle is so that everyone would know this belongs to him, this belongs to her, this belongs to him, this belongs to her. Samuel Maverick owned cattle and said, I'm not going to subject him to this process. Thereby risking stealing of his cattle. Because unbranded, anyone can take it. He said, I don't care. I'm not going to do it. Right? And that's where the name came from. Somebody who goes against established convention because of a very intrinsic belief that either it's wrong or unfair or unjust in some way. So here's a person who said, if this problem is not going to be solved, I will do it. I may be a man. I may be hitting against prejudice where, and he was shunned, he was ostracized. Because here, I mean, why are you dealing with a woman's personal issue? I mean, they don't like you dealing with it. As men, we don't want you dealing with it. Yet went against again. So he's a maverick and problem solver. So he ticks off all the boxes, right? So if you want to be a great lawyer, that's how you do these things. And that's a great story to benchmark yourself up against, because all these attributes play out there. Right? This, anyway, I've given you the slide earlier, right? One of your earlier sessions. This is something I broadly start with, mainly with first year students, which is 3 categories of advocates. You either be an average advocate, which is you know just about enough about the law, you understand the law, right? Because you read cases and you understand it. If I tell you what does Donahue versus Stevenson say, you will say it's about the neighborhood principle, it's about duty of care and negligence. 3 words you'll give me, you get 3 marks. As a conscientious teacher, teaching you according to the BCI prescribed syllabus, ticking off the right boxes, you get all correct. But if I ask you critically analyze the case, tell me what the case is, but you can't critically analyze it, right? So the average lawyer. Go one step forward and I say critically analyze the case, and you say, well, this case was about negligence, but it was a judge who actually in some ways created the law because earlier precedent was stacked against him, and you engage a bit with critical thinking there, right? You say that this was an exceptional case because there was no general proposition in the way that he worded it earlier. There were only special categories and he made it into a broad general category, so great legal creativity there. And we'll end there. Takes you to the bracket of good lawyer, able to critically analyze legal doctrine principles. What's an excellent lawyer? An excellent lawyer is all those attributes that you saw. You become the legal padman, which is not only are you able to critically analyze the problem, but you're also able to offer a solution. So no point just critiquing, right? We have those types with us. We see it routinely. I'm sure all of you have seen students and lawyers. Oh, you give them anything, they will critically analyze. They will tear it apart. They will critique it. Ask them to build anything? No. They can't. So we don't want lawyers to stop there with just critically analyzing. We want lawyers to build. You destroy something, but build something in its place better. It's easy to destroy, right? It's easy to find fault. Critical is also finding fault, right? In some ways, finding where the gaps are. And that's an easy task once you learn the ropes. But more difficult is building something in its place. How do you build? And that's where we need to go. Refashioning things, building fresh stuff. And how is it that we do that? Okay? A lot of creativity we need to be multidisciplinary, we need to be compassionate. Compassion drives a lot of this. Trust me, it's not just compassion is not just one of those things that they say, oh, be a do-gooder. It's just not a moralistic concept. Compassion actually drives a lot of innovation and drives a lot of this stuff. When you think about the world and you think about others, what you can unleash is far more than when you think about yourself. Because there are rare exceptions to the rule of people that create without thinking about the outside world or having any empathy towards fellow beings. And I think yesterday at dinner we spoke about one of them, Steve Jobs. And it's an amazing paradox. The man created some of the most beautiful things, but was an absolute moron when it came to interpersonal relations, right? Didn't care about the other person. His best friends, he ran them over, Steve Wozniak and the others. Took credit for ideas that others had, cut off people when he didn't like them, was cruel to his own daughter, right? She's written a book now on how much of an asshole he was. More than we thought he was. But that's probably one of the few exceptions of people that may not have been as empathetic to the outside world, but still created good stuff. But otherwise, by and large, you find that the ones that create are the ones that really have compassion driving them in a big way. Right? We discussed this case-to-case plus, that Langdell invented the case method more than 100 years ago. Time to take a relook at the case method, because the case method will only get you to good. Because you can critically analyze the case. That's what the case method does. Teaches you the case, teaches you how the judges think. You can critically analyze. But can you reformulate the policy? Can you come up with something better? That the case method really doesn't do that well. Right? So we take you to the case plus method, which is use the case as the trunk of the tree, but branch out. You link everything that you know, you stack things one against the other. What's the time, by the way? Huh? It's 12. And we have class till 12:30, right? So 10:30, 12:30 is every day. Where's Ravleen? Ravleen, yes. 10:30, 12:30? Is it every day? 10:30, 12:30, right? No breaks, right? That's what we agreed on? Oh, good. Okay, so we'll do, anyway, let's finish it off. The technological hindrances notwithstanding. Okay. So we link up, we stack up one after the other. We stack things, put things on top of each other. Polycentrism. What is polycentrism? What is polycentrism? A lovely, nice lady called Polly, and is she centered or is she not? What's polycentrism? Centered, it's a good expression, centered. Find your center. Also finding your purpose. Balance. What is polycentrism? One point, one center, multiple centers. You can use the same case, you can use the same thing and start inquiring from multiple centers. You have multiple centers of inquiry. You're not limited to one, right? You can go anywhere. Internalization, externalization. This is fascinating for you from the point of view of your evaluation, which we must discuss right now. How do you want to be evaluated?
Based on the merits.
Based on merit. What is merit?
What we know.
What is merit?
Our skill set. Whatever is just.
Whatever is just is meritorious. Okay? Okay, what is internalization first? Let's go to internalize. Have you internalized what I've spoken to you so far? How would I know that? It's learning about internalization. Internalization means what? Not only that it has gone to you, you've understood, but you've internalized it. It's become a part of you. And the best way to understand if you've internalized something is when you spit it back out. I won't know whether you've properly internalized something unless you externalize it. And here's where I'm going to give you full creativity. In your evaluative exercises, you can externalize any way you want. You can either write an essay on some select topics that we can give you. Ishwar, please help me frame some nice essay questions. 2, if I ask you for your views on Donahue versus Stevenson, you can externalize it, if you are musically inclined, through a song. You know? Start by singing anything, rhyme. You know, all hail the snail. All other cases in comparison do fail. Anything. I mean, use your whatever you wish. Yeah? If I pun any longer, it may be stale. Or you can draw a nice comic cartoon strip, for those of you who are artistically inclined towards drawing. Or you can write me a nice little script for a TV series based on Donahue and a modern derivation of Donahue, which we can then take and see if somebody's. Anyway, we're building a legal script for IDIA to take to television, and Javed Akhtar is going to help us. Hopefully, Malaika Arora or Malika Sharawat will not have come up with The Good Wife by then, so we can be the first legal teleseries. Right? So we're creating stories to have a legal teleseries. So if any of you want to contribute, more than happy to accept, provided you give a license to IDEA to use it for all of eternity. Right? That's the only condition, because we need the freedom to use it. Right? Because our purpose is a compassionate one, which is to spread the message, the gospel of the law, to get more people excited about the law. What better way than to spread it to television and a nice little series? So if you can create a nice story, anyone up for it? Around this case, around the J&J case, a nice little script. Anyone to script writing, storytelling? Anyone who can write a story? A script? No? No? No creative minds here? Literary minds? Who writes? Or you can write a poem? You can write a poem? You can do a little drama piece here, 3, 4 if you want to enact it. I don't mind. So you have full range for externalization. So think through it, come back tomorrow to me and tell me how you would like to externalize. And then accordingly I'll find you, we can discuss, and you'll then be evaluated on that. Your certificates are going to comprise not just the fact that you attended this course, but your ratings on it. I will rate you on all the CHAMPS parameters when you give me your evaluative exercise. And that possibly will go to your potential employer. Because that's what we started doing at IDIA. A lot of people write IDIA, volunteer. We've told employers, please call us back and check with us. We will tell you exactly how they performed on each of the parameters that you're looking for. Because we have an internal repository of that. So you can't just write certificate and attended and expect that the tag will get you somewhere. People also will know exactly how you performed. That's fair, right? It's a better system than just getting a certificate, which is why when your class coordinator said, I want only interested, serious students who don't come here just for certificates. If you're coming here just for certificates, you have no reason to be here. Right? Because that's not the kind of lawyers we want to create. People that would accumulate certificates after certificates, but mean nothing more than that. That's how you externalize. Collaborative learning. I prefer people that work in teams. So if you want to work in a team and be evaluated as a team, great. Clinics, like I said, those of you who perform really well here, interested in the case, will include you in the clinic that takes on at least the J&J case to start with. Maybe those of you interested in privacy, you can join us on the other one. And flipped classroom means, at least now I didn't do it too much because I had a bad experience last time with you folks where I gave you an essay before I started a course. I don't know how many of you participated in that, but all the essays were lousy, except for one which barely was above average, and so I refused to take the course. I didn't come. Right? This time, therefore, I didn't give any readings, I didn't give any pre-homework, nothing. I didn't place too much of a burden on you beforehand, but it seems like this is a more engaged, interested class. But going forward, it will be a flipped classroom where you'll do a lot of work outside as well, which means you'll do a lot of the reading, then we come back and discuss. Okay? So now what we do is we go to the teams on Donahue. We have a last 20 minutes to half an hour, so let's wind it up. Arguments start here, and arguments with the, who's Donahue and who's Stevenson? I forgot. Who's Donahue? You're Donahue? And Stevenson. Okay, start. We know the facts of the case from yesterday. Everyone's familiar with it. Two friends on a nice evening in Scotland at a nice little cafe. Go there, sit down, order a ginger beer float, which is ice cream with ginger beer. Ice cream comes, ginger beer comes in a bottle, opaque bottle. They pour the waiter comes and pours the first glass onto the ice cream. Mrs. Donahue, that's her married name, it's married surname. She changes it during the course of the litigation because she gets divorced during the course of the litigation. Anyway, she scoops it, has it. When the second round is poured from the ginger beer bottle, out pops a dead snail, causing severe shock and distress to Mrs. Donahue, who then develops gastroenteritis, severe pain, is hospitalized, and then sues for 500 pounds in those days, before the court saying, these are the damages I'm entitled to. Luckily finds a pro bono lawyer who will take up the case free of cost for her. The guy takes up the case. The defendants agree to the fact that this can be decided as a matter of law, so they assume that the facts to be correct. If the fact was that there was a snail in the bottle, then would the law provide a cause of action in favor of Mrs. Donahue to sue Stevenson, who is not the cafe owner, but the manufacturer of the ginger beer, and his name is prominently displayed on the bottle. That's how they found out. And they sued. And Stevenson, of course, says that there's no contract between me and her, so I'm not liable to pay a penny. And she says, well, her lawyer says that, well, you still need to pay because you owe me a duty, and you were negligent, and I got damaged, and there should be a duty of care here. Right? So let the arguments begin. Lawyers for Donahue.
So the first argument that we have is that the manufacturers owed a duty of care to the user of the product. In that regard, we can state that if a parent is buying a toy for his child, the ultimate user of that toy would be the child and not the parent himself. So in that case, you cannot just focus on the person buying the product, but you'll have to focus on the person's ultimate user who's using that product and whether he or she is getting harmed by it. So in this case, even though Ms. Donahue did not buy that particular product, she was the ultimate user and she has a right against the manufacturers to sue them for any damage, for any stress and gastroenteritis that was caused.
Where is this duty coming from?
This duty is coming from.
Is there any support from earlier case law for the proposition that there is a duty in this case that Mr. Stevenson has to abide by? Where is that duty coming from? Where's the support from? Remember, we're in a common law jurisdiction. We can only, as a judge, I can only rule in accordance with established precedent. I cannot create law. So give me the support of propositions from earlier law that will help support your case.
Libre versus Gould, under circumstances.
Which year? But it doesn't help me if it's a case after this case. I need precedent, which means cases before me.
We contend that the duty of care arises from the very nature of the activity the defendant.
It's a great argument on logic, counsel, but where's the support?
So we can see the precedent of Longfield versus Holiday versus Longfield.
Holiday versus Longfield, which year?
Not aware of that.
How can you cite a case when you're not aware of the year, counsel? Don't you have smartphones and smart computers and smart Wi-Fi's in this room to pull it up immediately? Don't you have 3 people sitting on your team?
It's the 1851 judgment.
1851 judgment, okay? And when is our case? When is this case? What year are we in now? Okay? Let's assume we're the House of Lords.
In this case, there was a lamp that went bad. Now, what we seek to emphasize on is that when you are offering a product that does not seem dangerous in itself.
That was a lamp in this case. And what was held?
In the precedent.
Yeah, it was a lamp.
Yes, the code.
What kind of lamp? Like a magic lamp, like in Aladdin's case? What kind of lamp? Was it the one that you rubbed and out came a genie saying, Master, Master, I will grant you any wish that you desire. What lamp was it?
Electric lamp.
Electric lamp. And so what was the problem with the electric lamp?
So it didn't work. There was a latent defect due to which it burst and caused harm to the person who was using it.
Okay.
Now let's come to the present case.
No. So tell me, what did they rule in that case first? You're citing a case means walk me through the facts of the case and tell me how they ruled and what they ruled.
In that case, they appreciated the fact, the peculiar fact in that case, that electric lamps are not meant to be perceived as dangerous things.
Okay. And therefore?
Because electric lamps are different from guns.
Correct. So so what? Was there liability? Were they held liable?
Yes, sir. They were because an analysis was drawn of the nature of thing, the nature of the use.
No, I'm not into. First, we'll go into that. Were they held liable in this case? Are you 100% sure? Then why are you citing it, counsel? It goes against you. If they're not liable, why are you citing this case? So if they said that this is not a dangerous good, did they say it's not a dangerous good and therefore they're not liable? Why did they say they're not liable? So therefore they're liable.
Therefore, they are not liable.
So then how does it help you? If it's an article not dangerous in and of itself and therefore not liable, they should be citing it. Why are you citing it? You're taking money from the other side, counsel. You seem to be making arguments they should be making.
So, the reason why we are citing is because we also want to emphasize on the factual aspect that the goods being sold here are bottled ginger beers. Now those bottles being opaque, and those bottles as a consumer would perceive them, those bottles won't seem dangerous in themselves because they are containing beverages which are packed, which are not possibly subject to any outside interference. Now when a consumer sees such a bottle, the consumer would believe that such bottle has been packed with due care, and the manufacturer must have made sure that there is no noxious substance in that bottle, and that bottle is fit and healthy for consumption. Now in such a case,
in a lamp also the same principle applies, right?
Yes.
In a lamp also the same principle applies. I assume that the lamp would just click on as a lamp and would not go bust
Yes.
and hurt me.
Exactly.
And yet, my predecessor court held that they're not liable. Why should I do any differently?
However,
Am I not bound by it?
so but you also have the liberty and the privilege to differ and to
I can't change the law. If you're saying that's the law, I'm stuck with it. You're saying the lamp had a latent defect which couldn't be identified by the consumer. In this case, you're drawing a parallel with this case, saying that, well, the bottle, I couldn't identify the defect because it's opaque. And in the earlier case, if my predecessor has held that they're not liable, why should I hold any differently? Am I not bound?
Sir, there's no opaqueness in a lamp. Even
Doesn't matter, it's a latent defect. When it's a latent defect in a lamp that cannot be identified by a consumer, it's the same as an opaque bottle where the consumer cannot identify whether there's a dead snail or not
So in
inside.
the present case, even the vendor cannot identify what is there inside the bottle.
Similarly, even a latent defect case, a retailer cannot identify that there's a defect in the lamp.
So, considering the nature of difference in the industry,
What is the difference? I don't see any difference between these two examples.
when we buy a lamp or a tube light or any electronic appliance, we tend to go to the showroom or the shopkeeper who must have run a test on it whether it works properly or not. However, when we buy a beverage,
Do shopkeepers run tests on every electronic item that is there? Are they bound to under the law as it exists now?
so, but as a matter of practice,
Electronic items, if I go to a shop and buy, let's say, a camera which is in a sealed box, would I assume that the retailer has checked it? And can I sue the retailer if it's defective?
it would
Not the retailer who would have checked it, but the manufacturer who has.
Correct. So it's a latent defect that the manufacturer didn't spot in this case, right? Correct. Then, how does it help you? If it's a latent defect that couldn't have been spotted by the manufacturer, on what theory do I hold them liable?
Now, since the manufacturer did not do one of the things he was supposed to do, that is to keep the latent defect.
Let us assume that I complied with all the precautions that a reasonable manufacturer in my position would have done, and yet there is still a small defect unanticipated. Am I to be liable?
So the duty of care.
That's what I'm saying. I've exercised the duty of care by adopting the best practices that an ordinary person would have adopted. Now, accidents happen all the time. I can't provide for every contingency that comes. The test is of a reasonable man. As a reasonable business person, as a reasonable producer, I followed best practices. Yet there was still a defect. Beyond me.
In that instance, Samsung phones also stated that they did take due reasonable care, but after those blasts, they were held liable for the.
Which court? Was it a court that relied on Donahue versus Stevenson and negligence, or was it a court that relied on strict liability? Because your answers are going to be different. If it's strict liability, I'm with you. Strict liability, I don't care whether you're negligent or not. So long as I independently establish a defect, you're liable. Right? That's strict liability.
Your Lordship, the case that you were stating to us, that even if I have taken the manufacturer, being a manufacturer, I have taken all the due care that is supposed to be taken, but still if any damage happens to me as a consumer, still you would be liable for that damages because I in good faith consumed that product.
Tort law is predicated upon fault. Where is my fault? It's not only damages. I can't seek damages when there's nobody at fault. Negligence turns on fault. Even though I may be terribly damaged, if I cannot establish fault, I cannot claim. Unless it's strict liability or absolute liability. But we're on negligence, which is fault based. Okay, let me guide you in one direction, counsel. Could you perhaps say that a snail going into a bottle is prima facie indicative of negligence because of a doctrine of res ipsa loquitur? How does a snail get inside a bottle? How does a snail get inside a bottle?
Negligence.
Do you want to run an argument on that?
There were no safety measures taken at the manufacturing plant. So, like the snail got into the bottle and it was okay tested, sold it with a packaging with the name of the respondent, and so under the good faith the consumer consumed it. The bottle was opaque. So there's a greater accountability on the part of the manufacturer involved when the packaging is such that the consumer cannot even inspect it. So he is totally relying upon you that you have rightly manufactured that product, and I am as a consumer I am consuming it. And it's not just about how much damage I suffered being a consumer. It's a larger question of public health is involved here. Because today I have consumed the product.
Yes, counsel, public health may be involved, but I have to be careful while pinning liability. It is a problem to be addressed, but I have to be careful also about who I cast the burden on. It has important ramifications for policy, for morality, for the law. Just because somebody needs to pay doesn't mean that Stevenson has to pay.
Indeed, Your Lordship, let's see who are the
For that you need to independently establish to me as to why Stevenson needs to pay. Why didn't you sue in contract?
Your Lordship, we need to see who are the people.
Why didn't you sue in contract? Why didn't you sue in contract?
There was no contract per se between the consumer and the manufacturer here. But
Between the consumer and the?
manufacturer. There wasn't a
Are you a beneficiary of the contract between the manufacturer and the retailer?
Indeed.
Can you sue as a beneficiary of a contract?
I can see
The contract is intended for your benefit, right? You're an intended beneficiary. The reason the product is sold to the retailer is so that the retailer in turn sells to you. Why should a gap in contract law be fixed by tort law? Why can't we fix it in contract itself? It's almost like what you're arguing to me is that there's a major gap in contract law because of privity, and therefore I need to why develop another area of law altogether? Why can't I do it under contracts? Why don't we refashion contracts and say that somebody who's what is with this privity? Why should there be privity? So long as you knew that at the end of the day, you know the retailer's not going to be buying your ginger beer and consuming everything sitting in his cafe. I mean, there's no point opening his cafe, right? I buy 100 bottles of ginger beer and I sit in my cafe and I say, hey, it's all for me. Right? I sit in my own cafe drinking my own ginger beers. Doesn't make sense. I'm obviously buying them to supply them, to serve them. When I go before Stevenson, I know, and Stevenson knows, that I'm buying it not for my own consumption but to sell to others. When I buy from you, you sell it to me. Is that a warranty? Is that an implied warranty? So what you're selling to me is good stuff. It's an implied warranty. Yes or no? Why can't I take the benefit of that implied warranty as an ultimate consumer? Under contract. 2. Second, why is the state permitting him to sell it in opaque glasses? Why can't it be transparent? We want more transparency in society, not more opacity. Right? We need more transparency, right?
But then we
As the judge said, sunlight is the best disinfectant. If there was sunlight and there was transparency, none of this would have happened. Sue the state for failing to come up with regulations. Can you make the state? You said it's a huge public health issue. Sue the state. Why is the state permitting people to sell things in black, opaque stuff where anything goes?
there may be a case where that opaqueness of the bottle is a trademark owned by the company. So if the state
Is it a trademark here? Is opacity a trademark? I mean, even now, whether color can be a trademark or not is a hugely disputable proposition. What? More than 1930, but almost 100 years later.
opaqueness may not be a trademark, but a different color may be a trademark.
That's what I'm saying. You're talking 1930s. Even today, it's contestable whether color can be a trademark. Mhm. Why didn't you sue the state? Opacity, that's 2 is contract, 3 is why isn't your friend on the action? Implead your friend on the action. Does your friend not have a contract with the cafe? Can you sue the cafe and then tell the cafe that you sue the manufacturer in turn? Why can't I impose an obligation on the cafe owner? I can't sue the manufacturer directly under contract, but let's assume that I can sue the cafe owner and mandate that the cafe owner sue the manufacturer. And if that happens, then the parties will insure against this later. But I should be given relief because parties, they are in a better position to protect their interests than I am. Right? Yes?
Whenever we talk about the state, so here in this case we couldn't find the fact that there is no direct relation between the direct actions of the state when it comes to the
failure to act. You don't need only actions of the state to sue, you can have omissions as well. Failure to act. People have sued the state for failure to insist on product labeling, insist on warnings, etc., etc. So a plethora of case law. Failure to act is also an offense. Okay, now let's take your point on, I think they have a strong point on res ipsa loquitur. What is your answer to that? Come, we'll continue with you. Let them start on res ipsa loquitur. I want them to address on that.
But Your Lordship, the negligence, if they are saying that there is a res ipsa loquitur, then it must be not only be averred but also be proved. And
no, res ipsa loquitur doesn't need to be proved. That's exactly why it's res ipsa loquitur.
like
Because it speaks for itself, it doesn't need to be proved.
it is speaking itself at the consumption level, but there was.
How did a snail get inside a bottle?
But they have,
If you were reasonably cautious, a snail should never have got into a bottle. And in fact, not only is, in earlier cases, mouse have got into a bottle. How do these things happen if you're careful? If you follow the best practices, snails should, how does a snail get inside a bottle? I can understand a small fly, yeah. An ant, yes. But a snail?
like there was no direct evidence during the discharge when the bottle discharged from the manufacturer. It was found where it was.
But it was sealed, opaque, nobody opened, nobody tampered. It came from you. Between the time that it came from you and between the time it was opened and consumed by Bisdonny, nobody had touched it. Nobody had opened it.
During that time, there was also a practice that sometimes what used to happen that when bottles used to go for refilling, and the manufacturer or the print which was there on the bottle was not relevant. Sometimes it went to wrong manufacturer.
It went to wrong manufacturer.
Yeah.
Who are you, the wrong manufacturer or the right one? You're the wrong manufacturer.
There are possibilities that might not have gone to us and got refilled from somewhere else.
It got refilled from another manufacturer. My God, it's complicating the fact situation. This lawyer has not only gone beyond the law, he's gone beyond the facts also. Notoriously creative. Refilling. So it's not just one bottle. So now you're saying that there was one bottle, it was filled initially, it went somewhere, got consumed, then it came back, got refilled at some other facility, not at yours. Not in your control.
Maybe.
Not in your control. So this bottle doesn't come from you. Wow.
Determined by determined.
This bottle doesn't even come from him.
It's not in trial.
Do you have any evidence to prove this fact?
No, you have to prove because like
Oh, right. You create the fact and they have to prove it now. Wow, his legal theory is also innovative. He subverted the law, he subverted the facts, everything. This person is a revolutionary lawyer. Now he'll point to me also and say, who are you to decide? You're the wrong judge. I also need a refill now.
the practice was.
Now I need a refill of other stuff to make sure I can follow the train of discussion. Comes with a little bit of adherence to the facts. Let's not spring off too much.
So starting with, like, the other side does not stand in this honorable code because there was no contractual liability upon the manufacturer, and there cannot be a legal liability arise if there is no act or omission in contrary to the contractual liability.
Okay.
So this party is not at all related in the eyes of law with the manufacturer, and further, the even if we assume that they have some ground, then for the sake of argument, the bottle or the good was not in itself intrinsically dangerous as to create any liability or
Why are we on this intrinsically dangerous proposition? What is the relevance of intrinsically? What is intrinsically dangerous?
Because
Who is intrinsically, or what is intrinsically dangerous? Who is intrinsically dangerous? What is?
something like a gun or a weapon.
A gun is intrinsically dangerous? If I use a gun in a war to kill the enemy, is it dangerous? I mean, is it bad? If I use a gun for hunting, is it intrinsically dangerous?
The same thing if we keep in our household and some small kid, if he has an access.
In the US, are these intrinsically dangerous things that the US Constitution permits you to keep in your house? It's intrinsically dangerous.
But the basic purpose is to give a harm, to create a.
What about a knife? Then a knife is also intrinsically dangerous. It can kill. No knives in the kitchen.
There's different, like, sizes of knife.
Different sizes. Let's take a big knife. Take a big knife. There are big knives. Is there any regulation that you can't keep a big knife in your house? No. Give a big knife. Give a butcher's knife.
But then the user is also aware about the nature of that product.
The user is also aware.
Yes, and
So therefore, whether it's dangerous or not should turn on the user's perception. So I can buy an explosive and keep it at home because I know it's an explosive. I can buy nuclear material and keep it, although it might result in an atomic bomb, because I know it is. So it's not intrinsically dangerous because I know it is dangerous.
but then the liability is not on the manufacturer.
So liability is on the manufacturer only if it is dangerous, but the user doesn't know it's dangerous.
Yeah, and he does not.
Is that what the case law says? Anyone with clarity on the case law? Councils haven't read, unfortunately. There are 3 categories. There were exceptions. This case is really about distinguishing those earlier facts, which were very piecemeal kind of exceptions that were drawn in. One was inherently dangerous. One was not inherently dangerous, but dangers known only to the manufacturer. Fraud was committed. Because you knew about it, you didn't reveal it. And then what does this case do? Broadens it and says, it doesn't matter. You have a duty of care. Because what does he say? Very creatively, the judge. This inherent danger and danger doesn't make sense because the moment there's a snail, it becomes dangerous. So to argue whether something is inherently dangerous or not doesn't make sense to me, because when a snail is there, it is inherently dangerous. It is a foreign substance that could cause problems, can wreak havoc in your system, because people don't normally eat snails. I mean, if it's a snail eating population, then it's fine. Then you can think of it like, there was a carrot in the ginger beer. Oh, who's going to sue if there's a carrot in the ginger beer? So if you eat snails like you're eating carrots, you can imagine, right? And there are communities that will eat snails like they eat carrots, right? Instead of gajar ka halwa, we have snail ka halwa. Right? You can savor it nice and slowly. Because with the snail, it's about slow. But absent that, a snail is a foreign substance that we don't normally eat, so it will cause some kind of upset, similar to a mouse. But then there are mice eating communities as well, right? Including in India. So it's all contextual. It's all contextual, it's relative, it's cultural. And in this case, a snail makes it dangerous because people are not used to eating snails. So therefore, doesn't make sense, the category, which is what you should have argued, which is what the judge said. Because this is inherently dangerous. effectively. So you are adhering to earlier case law. But every product that turns out to be defective because of a defect, you can easily club it. At least that's what this judge tried to do, that leap, because he's stuck with this precedent. So he now needs to carefully maneuver it in such a way that he shows that he's adhering to the earlier law, but still he makes a break with it, right? Very subtle break, because earlier it's all sharp categories. Now he says general duty of care to any manufacturer. The only exception being that there must be no reason to evaluate the good in the interim. In the interim, no reason to evaluate the good. No prospective evaluation. So the good goes to the manufacturer, contains some defect, not known to manufacturer maybe, certainly not known to anybody else, cannot be identified by anybody else in the meantime. Now I give you fact situation 2. Assume it was a clear transparent bottle. I'm going to a cafe, I'm going to a bar, a couple of drinks with my friend. I mean, are you really going to be looking into a transparent bottle to see if there's a snail? When you pour is when it comes out. Just because a bottle is opaque or transparent, does it mean that you will definitely have a chance at identifying the snail? Needs to be questioned? But remember, this is a time when the law is developing incrementally. It would have been too much of a leap for them. In present day theory, the moment there's a snail in a bottle, I don't care if it's transparent or opaque. The fact that there's a snail should make you liable. Why should the onus be on the consumer to take every bottle that he's drinking? Kuch hai. Or even better still, bottle se leke, pour it in the glass, inspect the glass. Imagine how nauseating it is. You go on a nice, very warm, sunny day, you want a nice beer, get a Kingfisher, and you pour it in a glass fully, check it, hey. Then drink it. It's gone. The fun is gone. Who's going to do that? Right? Why should it make a difference? This is how you need to understand a case. Question it from all angles. Different permutations, different combinations. What could the result have been? What should the result have been? Right? So when you do a case, do it in exactly. Ask questions, counter questions, play around. What if this had been the fact? What if it had been litigated today? And you bought in some good stuff, Samsung and all that. It's great. But Samsung will lead you to the fact that the current standard is a much stricter one than earlier. In the US, they don't care if it's negligence anymore. Product liability turns in strict liability. They're not even going to ask the question, were you negligent or not? The moment there's a defect, because for them it's a simple economic, and this is what you'll realize about the law of torts. It goes, and this case has a strong morality element to it, no? If you read the decision, Atkin is about morality. The law must provide an answer here because manufacturers should not get away with it. Now the response is more economic. Now it's not so much it's not a moral issue, it's an economic issue, which is who can bear the cost better. We think the manufacturers can bear the cost better because they can insure it. So who cares if we actually follow due process, good process in making sure and checking everything, because no matter what he or she follows, some defects will always arise. So let's put that cost of the defect on him because he can get insured. So we don't need to go through the extensive fact-finding thing on whether he's actually liable because he was negligent and he breached the duty of care and he was callous or reckless in some way. But we pin the liability on him the moment we determine that a product is defective. That's it. Simple. And that's what Samsung teaches, that this is an economic question. Who is better placed to bear the burden of this cost?
But then in cases such as artificial intelligence, now things with enhanced technology are coming up. The manufacturer may not know about the latent defect and he has taken all the reasonable care. The user may also not know about the defect.
Correct.
And has no way to assess
Correct.
the implications of using one product. In that scenario, even from a morality perspective, who should be made liable?
That's what I think. They don't ask the moral question anymore now. They ask an economic question. Who's better placed to bear the cost? So if there is an ultimate defect, whether it is through use of technology, artificial intelligence, whatever it is, they'll pin the blame on the manufacturer because you got insured. So you don't actually pay out of pocket. You go to the insurance company. You see what I'm saying? So Samsung guards itself when its phones blast. Why is it not it's now got bankrupt? Half these companies never go bankrupt. I mean, look at the J&J case, they already paid billions. Have they gone bankrupt? No. They would have taken insurance. Insurance covers you to a large extent. Right? What's the time? We done? 12? Oh God, 10 minutes. Okay, so then we come back tomorrow. We'll do a little more of Donahue. Come back with a little more arguments. I want to see a little more reading and argument from both sides. Creativity, yes, but there are bounds even to base it on something.
Can you just guide us?
Otherwise, it'll become what? Banana coat. Anything flies, anything goes.
Means how should we take this? Because in this case, we are so much accustomed with the already prevalent laws.
No, go back to those settings. And you can bring in like she did. I like the fact that she brought in Samsung because then we can discuss it at least. Remember, this is not a strict moot court, it's also an instructional moot court, right? So you lead the arguments in the best way possible and we can take it to a larger discussion. Leave that to me. But you structure the arguments. But hey, no flying off the handle. Limits. Okay? You guys need to read up. Be very clear on what the cases were earlier and structure your arguments accordingly. And give me different counterfactuals and all that. It's all fine. Okay? So we come back tomorrow. You'll come back with how you like to be evaluated, which format, whether you like standard essays, other alternative form of essays, teamwork, collaboration, etc., etc. And we will tomorrow finish up the case. And then tomorrow let's move to J&J. I think we'll take a privacy later. But no, let's do, what, you want privacy tomorrow? Okay, let's do privacy then tomorrow. And then take up J&J on the last day then.
So
Carbolic we won't do. No, Carbolic we're not doing. So we'll do privacy tomorrow. And then who wants to do, again, I want set of volunteers, both sides. Pro Aadhaar, against Aadhaar. Pro Aadhaar? But I want a different set of players. Let's get different set of players. Come on. Pro Aadhaar. Pro Aadhaar 1. Come on, 2 more to join him. Where are all the people? Come on. Where's the spirit? Guys, the best lawyers are the ones who take up the difficult cases, not the easy ones. Arguing against Aadhaar is easy. 2, pro. And 3, pro. Against. Oh, 4 pro. Wow. Okay, now one of you can do against them. You already did this. No. You come back tomorrow better prepared for Donahue because get this. Against 1, against 2, against 3. Okay. So Danish again. Okay, then we'll do 4-4. That's fine. Okay. So 4-4. Give me the 4 pro. 1, 2, 3. Only 3 pro now. Where's the 4th one? 4. Your name? Give me all your names. Ankit, Sumit, Adimesh, Vineet. Ankit, Sumit, Adimesh, Sumit. Vineet. And now against. Okay. 1, 2, 3 for your name. Saloni. Utkarsh. Varun. Okay. So come and prepare tomorrow. We'll argue for against theories of liability on Aadhaar and draw from as much as possible from the old case law. I want you to go back to basics, fundamentals, and of course the Aadhaar Act and all of those things. Okay? Good. Okay. So we meet tomorrow at 10:30. Yeah. So now we do, tomorrow is Wednesday, right? And then we do Thursday for J&J, and then we wind up there, right? So tomorrow we'll do a little bit of this, finish Donahue, come back to do a bit of Aadhaar and privacy, data protection, and then we come to J&J. Okay, great. See you guys then.